Good afternoon, webinar participants, and welcome to our market insights for Q4 2017. I see some familiar faces who are joining us today, so hello everybody. And I think we have around 200 participants who've joined us today. I certainly don't know them all, and welcome. Patrick Coughlin, who's our MD at CreditorWatch. Patrick is normally taking our Market Insights webinar. Patrick's actually out of the office today, so he's asked me to step in his place. Patrick's done a great job on his webinars historically, so I hope I can keep up with his performance. For those who may not know myself, given I haven't met you, my name's Colin Porter and I'm the founder and CEO of CreditorWatch. I'm extremely proud, and it's been a very rewarding 6 years since we started CreditorWatch. I'm extremely proud of my team that has built CreditorWatch to what it is today. We're over 50,000 customers who are actively using CreditorWatch, or some of them aren't actively using it every day, but it's great to have built up a business in such a short period of time. And it's a testament to my team for getting us to this point. Obviously, when I say it's very rewarding, when I say that, it's helping businesses get paid. I was a small business owner for 15 years, and one of my frustrations was that you deliver the goods, or in my situation, it was a publishing company. So we would produce the magazine, send our invoices out for advertising, and it was very disappointing that you would not get paid. And I identified that I was like every other business that provides credit, that there are businesses who don't pay their bills, or they pay slow simply because they can. So building up a business that's actually helping so many businesses in Australia, I'm very proud, and it really is rewarding. I get great feedback, and I welcome feedback, and I do read them. And I take on the feedback, whether it's positive or negative, or ideas for introducing new products. So thank you for the feedback that we get, and I certainly encourage anyone to send me ideas on things that we can be improving on CreditorWatch, on new products that we should be launching. Before we get started, I might just a few housekeeping points. Today's webinar shouldn't take longer than 20 minutes. I'm a fast talker. So bear with me if I'm talking too fast for you, and I certainly like to keep the topics brief, power through, so we can not take up too much of our lunch. I'm certainly hungry, so I'll be ready to go for lunch after this. If you have any questions during the webinar, there is a link at the bottom where you can participate and ask questions along the way. We have a team on standby who will be stepping in, and they'll certainly be sending through flagging any questions that would be relevant for today's webinar, which can be shared as general topics. The other part is that we record this webinar, and following the webinar, we'll actually send out a copy of the webinar, the slides, and reference material that will be sent to you within 48 hours. So if you feel that I've missed anything, or I'm speaking too fast for you, you will get a copy of this webinar in about 48 hours. Our agenda today, I'll quickly, for those who may not know or have full background on CreditorWatch and what we do, on the next slide, I'll just give you a few minutes on talking about CreditorWatch, who we are. Today's main topic is obviously the Small Business Risk Review, which is for Q4 2017. We run the Small Business Risk Review 4 times a year, and it goes out, it covers a whole range of topics. Some topics we ask the same questions, so we can actually gauge how our customers, or how the market is trading, their experiences. We also talk about payment defaults, and this is obviously our own unique data that we can see from our members who are registering defaults, whether they increase or decrease, the volume, the amounts, which is obviously relevant, whether those any standout points on that. We look at court action by state breakdown, both based on the volume of court actions and also, again, the value of the court actions. And those two do correlate. Sometimes we can see, as you'll see in the next slide, or the preceding slides, where court judgments may have decreased, but the values have increased. And that's generally relating to the size of customers who are actually using courts to collect debt. We also look at the failure rate of unincorporated entities. Now, this is certainly it's an area that we try and cover. In the media, it's very easy for media to look at companies can be covered through ASIC. There is a lot of data that ASIC publishes, which is insight into companies, which is not necessarily the majority of your customers. So we try and prepare the research on the unincorporated entities, which are sole traders, partnerships, and trusts. These entities are probably around 98% of all businesses in Australia, so it's extremely relevant. And probably the majority of your customers would fit into this category. We've also included customer survey results, and also throughout this presentation, we'll be asking you for some poll information, which will also try and add some value to today's webinar. About CreditorWatch. So for those who aren't familiar about CreditorWatch, we've now got over, I believe it's about 52,000 customers. We reached 50,000 customers in August last year. Certainly a great milestone and celebration for us in August. Some of our products is obviously just the usual credit reports, which most will be familiar with. But one of our big, strong recommendations to business is monitoring alerts and also our debt collection tools. So monitoring alerts is when you can actually add customers by ABN or ACN to a monitoring list on your account, and that way it's almost a set and forget. You will receive alerts if there's any changes, whether that be a court judgment, a change of director, or worst case scenario, a payment default. And you can actually then take action. So certainly recommend our members to add their customers to a monitoring list. And often what we find is that people are providing credit knowing that they're providing credit to businesses that they believe are going to be paying, but it's those that you don't expect to not pay you that actually probably end up not paying you. So it's really important to add all your customers to that monitoring list. One of our other products is Apply Easy, which is an online credit application and decisioning solution. This is a product that is used by banks, telcos, traditionally, where they've been able to invest significant amounts of money to build their own solution for onboarding clients. We've got Apply Easy, which is it replicates your paper-based application and turns it into an online application. Makes it very easy for your customers to apply for credit, and it automates the process and makes you certainly look very professional. This is a service that we recommend for anyone who's opening 10 new accounts per month up to 5,000 per month. But it's a very easy, simple, not complicated and affordable solution. So that's a great product. Data washing. We generally use data washing tools for onboarding new customers, but it's a great way to have a look at your entire customer and identify potentially if there's any risks associated with customers that you've been using, been spending money with you for some time. So that's a great product. We've got our virtual accounts receivable management tool, which can be found on the top right-hand corner of your account. That's an automated service that can send reminder notices, payment reminders or final notices. So it's a very easy tool to use. For our SMEs who use MYOB, Cloud or Xero, there is a link that you can link your accounting software to CreditorWatch, and that will provide you easy onboarding of new customers and provide insights into your customers through that integration. CreditorWatch is affordable for all businesses, but certainly for small sole traders, it's a very affordable solution, and I'd recommend, if you're not a customer or using CreditorWatch, there's a link, and you will be sent this link at the end for a free trial. About our small business risk review, this is actually sent out on a quarterly basis, and we aggregate data and trade payment information from a variety of sources. We aim to provide a quick snapshot on key insights into trends that are occurring. And today's webinar, we try and pull out some highlights of that and be able to share that with you. For our larger credit managers who are participating today or who actually look at this, they generally have a lot more understanding of being able to read data, but I'll try and keep this as simple as possible so that it's not complicated and you can actually understand it. Where do we get our information from? Well, the easy one is ASIC and the ABR, the Australian Business Register. We obviously have access to courts around Australia, so aggregating that information, looking at it, analysing it, we're able to identify and see trends. Insolvency notices, that's administered by ASIC. We receive a live feed from ASIC on that, and we look at the areas of insolvency. We collate that with our own information and identify industries that are actually going to administration. We provide the information. We have debt collection inquiries. So we have over 200 mercantile agents who are using CreditorWatch. And when debt collectors receive on behalf of their customers, they receive a business that hasn't paid and they're chasing that debt, they will come onto CreditorWatch and they'll register what we call it an inquiry, a debt collection inquiry. And what that does is when you see a debt collection inquiry highlighted on the credit report, that means that there is someone else chasing that business for debt, and you should say pay special attention to that when reviewing credit or when you receive an alert. So we also have our 50,000 customers who are providing trade payment information or registering defaults. We look at areas, regions, we know who our members are, what type of industry they're in. So we look at that information and we break that down and we provide that to you in this risk review. We might just go to a quick poll, and you'll see there's a little link on the bottom of your page now. And I'll ask a question. In the last 3 months, have bad and doubtful debts levels increased, decreased, or remained the same? And this is comparing to the rest of the year. So I'll give you a minute to click on that, and then we'll jump in and vote. We'll take a minute on that. But the media for our New South Wales and Victoria, the housing market in the media has certainly been well publicised that there is some uncertainty leading into 2018. So it'll be interesting to see what that does to probably our payment trends in the middle of the year when those results come through. Okay, so this is, for those of you who are now looking at this, this is similar stats to what I saw in Patrick's presentation last year, that there is a 50% or over 50% have remained the same, but there is also 25% has actually increased, which is actually quite high. That's certainly something that's it's probably an increase on previous poll. That's interesting. And looking at some of that, I'm actually just breaking that down, and some of that is actually in the construction. So some of our participants today, they're in the construction and building industry. So that's I guess that relates to what I just mentioned before about the housing market, the potential downturn in that. Average payment default value. So you can see in this slide here that this data is sourced from our SMEs. Now, SMEs are generally what we call non-critical suppliers. So those people providing credit in that sector, they're not critical suppliers. So if you're they're not the type of organisations like brick suppliers where there's only 3 or 4 places to buy bricks from. These are potentially hardware stores or printing companies where businesses that are in distress, they can move around and they don't have to actually use specific suppliers to receive products. So we can see there that defaults are generally the precursor to a more serious and significant event and moving into insolvency. So we can see in Q4 2017 that it's actually decreased, which is a positive. That's comparing it with the same quarter in 2016, which was actually quite high. So it's probably, although the graph is showing that it's down 70%, Q4 2016 was 104% up on the previous year. So it's probably just sitting middle of the road there. So one thing that we did note in the end of Q4 2016 is that court judgments were high in that same period. So it's an interesting stat. Defaults, the journey to administration. When we see defaults, we generally see 12 months leading up later that there are significant volumes or there's a change to the trend in companies going into administration. And that's where when you receive a default or an alert or you see a payment default on CreditorWatch, it definitely is a precursor that within the next 12 months there is the potential risk for a significant risk change, be that an insolvency notice, a significant court judgment may occur, or the company, worst case scenario, goes into administration. We move on to the Victorian court action. So we can see here that there is a decrease in both the amount of court actions, but also the dollar amounts. I'd have to say this is a positive result, and I'll be interested to see what our results are for Q1 of 2018. And I'd like to hope that for you that this follows in the same trend. Victoria has traditionally been quite a stable, the judgments in Victoria are quite stable compared to some of the other states where they jump around quite a lot. So this is certainly a positive sign, but let's just see what happens in the next result. And if they're further reduced in Q1 2018, that's definitely a positive sign for us all. I don't suggest that you relax on this and use the information in this report as not to sit and relax and not take into account and keep your eye on your accounts, and don't just make sure you're paying the right attention to credit applications and not use this as gospel that everything is going well and that if you provide credit in Victoria, you're going to get paid. Queensland court action, there is again, I see this as very flat, so it's a positive sign. There has been a 9% reduction in the amount of court actions, but the dollar amounts are higher. So there's an increase there. So it is flat, and certainly Q3 in 2017 was extremely high. So what we could find when I look at this statistic, looking at objectively, we could say that in Q3, a lot of businesses actually proceeded faster and actually took court action earlier than they may not have in previous months, which means that there is less court action required in Q4. Again, it'll be interesting to see this stat in Q1 2018. New South Wales, that they've followed the same trend as Victoria. It's a good sign, and it's positive to see that it compares with Victoria, but unlike Victoria, where it's quite stable in volume and amount, New South Wales does jump around a lot, and that when I look at who's actually taking businesses to court, there are quite a lot of government departments that are actually acting on the courts to sort out their disputes. So when government departments, they go through some structural changes, or they can have changes where they have a freeze on taking court action, that can actually impact on some of these stats. We might just move into another quick poll, if I could ask. What portion of your customer base is made up of unincorporated entities? Now, that would be sole traders, trusts, and partnerships. I'll let you click on this poll. Okay, looking at the statistic here, okay, so it's under 50% of our customers who are participating today in the webinar are trading with unincorporated entities. That's a significant number, but it's not surprising given that 98% of all businesses are unincorporated entities. This sector, as I've mentioned, and as you're probably aware, that unincorporated entities are very difficult to report on in the media. There is limited sources of data for journalists to actually be able to gather information. If they're a company, there is plenty of information published by ASIC on collapses and companies that go into administration, but this sector is certainly unreported in the media. We focus a lot of our marketing strategies to try and bring on small businesses and sole traders to try and help them with their collections. And we know that small businesses are the organisations that don't have the resources to be able to pursue bad debt, manage and have the tools to actually provide trade credit with the understanding of the risks involved in that. But given that we have the volume of SMEs using CreditorWatch, what we see is that when we have an increase in payment defaults, it's a good indication that those businesses are SMEs and they're sole traders, partnerships, and trusts. So this statistic is showing that there is a reduction in the failure. Now, as I mentioned, when ASIC publishes their information, the companies go into administration, there is no formal process apart from deactivating your ABN with the Australian Business Register. And that's not necessarily something that people actively do. They may just fail to pay their annual fee. It's not something they will actually ordinarily go to the ABR and actually cancel that. So it's not a good representation of businesses being failing. So that's an interesting one to look at. CreditorWatch conducted a survey last year, and I thought I'd just go through and have a look at that. We see here nearly 1 out of 2 Australian businesses are leaving themselves vulnerable to bad debt and by not performing credit checks or monitoring their existing customers. That's 50%. if they're using CreditorWatch, I strongly recommend. It's very easy to, when you are taking on a new customer, it doesn't take long to go in and have a look at their credit file. And most importantly, there's a little button on the top right-hand corner, which is monitoring. It's not expensive. Monitor all of your customers, or even if you don't provide credit, just monitor those customers anyway. And it'll be interesting to see that if there's any in the future, there's any changes to their risk profile and you receive an alert, you'll be thanking yourself for not actually providing them the credit. 72% of our respondents claimed that they always review new customers' repayment ability. This is obviously good and positive, and that's hopefully that some of our training has been easy to use for them, and they've been able to identify how easy it is to actually monitor and do those reports. An interesting stat here, almost half said they never reviewed the ongoing payment behavior for existing clients. Now, this is something that's very easy to do. Apart from monitoring, you can do data washes. That's something that you can just download your watch list and you can get a snapshot of your entire customer base and the risks related to the volume that you do have. There's also another tool which you will see in the top navigation bar, which is called Data Logic. That's a tool, and we might just move to that at the moment. You can just see your screens here now. Data Logic here, this button here, that provides you insight into your customers, and that's like performing a data wash. You can simply upload your age trial balance, and you can see based on your outstanding dollars where the risks actually stand. And that information is stored in here, so you can actually look back and look at the trends of your customers. The majority of sole traders and micro businesses responded, citing chasing payments as a frustrating tool, and it's an uncomfortable experience. And it also says that SME said it was mostly time-consuming. This is unsurprising. Those respondents answering on behalf of large corporates and enterprises claimed it was an easy practice. That's generally because they've got the tools, they've got the resources and the infrastructure to actually be chasing those debts. If I can click back to our dashboard, I'd encourage any of our customers to have a look at debt collection tools. Debt collection tools is a very easy way to help you in managing your collections. So that through this tool, you can actually generate reminder notices, final notices, letters of demands, as well as when you're setting up a new customer, it's very easy to set up what your terms are, and prior to actually providing them any sort of credit, let them know your processes, that you expect to get paid in 30 days or 14 days, whatever your trade credit terms are. So I'd encourage anyone who's actually feeling it uncomfortable or having difficulty chasing debt. Sometimes as a small business owner, we provide the goods, and the one part that we hate doing is actually having to call our customers and actually ask for payment. So this is an easy way. It's non-confrontational, and you can actually just send that reminder notice to them. And don't forget, add the CreditorWatch logo onto your invoices. It's a very easy way to let your customers know that you are serious about your payment terms. I'd like to say thank you for attending today. I hope I was able to provide you some information, which obviously you will be sent the full survey, and there's probably some other information in there that you'll be able to take from that where we didn't get time to go through today, and you can analyze that. For those who aren't customers of CreditorWatch, we offer a free trial. There's a link on your screen at the moment where you can click and go through and register. It's a free trial. Although you put your credit card details in there, that's you won't be charged for 14 days. So jump online, have a try, see how it works. There's also a link if you need help in any way or you don't understand what some of the features are. Please feel free, click on the link and ask any questions or call that number and ask one of our team to help you set your account up. We have some upcoming webinars which I'll encourage you to participate in. Debtor Logic Plus, which is going to be presented by Matt Jackson, who's our National Sales Director. He's at the coalface. He visits many of our corporate clients. He's going to be talking about staying ahead and of oncoming bad debt. And Debtor Logic is the link that I showed you previously. But that's a great webinar. That's on the 8th of February. There is another webinar for our small business customers, which is Enhance Your Xero and MYB accounts with CreditorWatch. Now that shows you how to connect your Xero and MYB to CreditorWatch, and that just brings in some information into CreditorWatch, which will then automatically add your customers, those who are, you have accounts with, or you're providing credit to. It will add it to a monitoring list on CreditorWatch, and then you'll start receiving alerts if any of your customers' payment behavior changes occur. So on this page here, you can see the two register now buttons. I'd encourage you today, just click on and register now. That will mean that you'll receive a reminder notice prior to the webinar to set you up, so you can set that and forget. There's also, I'd encourage you to go to our CreditorWatch blog page, which there's a link there on the page now. That just provides information, other articles by industry experts provide you some insights. So you can see that the subjects, if they're of interest to you, click on them. All of our articles are short, brief, and we try and have them concise, because we do know that as business owners or credit managers, time is important to you. I'd also encourage you to send any questions through, and I'd like to thank everyone today, and I hope that I was able to provide you some insights, and I will hand this back over to Patrick for our next webinar in February. Before you log off, please stay, and there's a link and a button to which is a survey on today's webinar, which we'll use to help us improve future webinars. There is also some questions which have just come through. I might just have a quick look at these and see if there's anything which would be worthwhile sharing on here. Actually, there's a good one from Kerry. Kerry has just asked, what are your thoughts on recent ATO tax legislation? Now, this is actually relevant, and I'm not sure whether everyone's aware or not. And prior to answering this question, I just might give you a little bit of background. And this is a great question, Kerry. Thank you for sending this one through. The Australian Tax Office is introducing new tax legislation. I'm certainly very familiar with this. I lobbied the commissioner of the ATO 2 years ago. I noticed that the ATO are they're obviously Australia's largest creditor, and the ATO, whenever you look at a company that's gone into administration, the ATO is right up there as almost the number one creditor. And the tax office, they operate blind. They don't disclose who owes them money. So I approached the ATO and said, why don't the ATO disclose businesses that are not paying their tax? We received notice in early in 2017 that it had been initial legislation had been passed in Parliament allowing the ATO to register tax debt with bureaus. What does tax debt mean and what is going to be disclosed? And I wouldn't say there's reason for you to be alarmed unless you are in a situation where you can't pay your tax. And I'm sorry, if you can't pay your tax, you will soon be in a position where you can't pay your suppliers. This is not good for the economy, and this is not good for certainly our members who are providing credit. And the tax office is going to be regulated on who they register against. And in my view, I was consulted on providing my views and opinions on how they should actually register tax debt. And what it's looking like is that if you owe the tax office $10,000 and over, you fit the criteria. If your tax debt is 3 months or longer, you fit the criteria. If you have not communicated with the tax office for 3 months with that criteria, there is the opportunity that they will register you as not paying your tax debt. Now, this does not include where you are going into a difficult period. The tax office is certainly a friendly, flexible creditor where you can enter into payment arrangements, and it doesn't include that within this legislation. So, entering into a payment arrangement, you will not get registered. However, if you fail to meet those obligations, you will fit that criteria, and it's going to be another reason why it's so important for monitoring your customers. You will receive alerts through CreditorWatch when the ATO registers a business that has failed to meet their tax obligations with us. So it's a great question, Kerry, and that comes through in around July at this stage. Again, please feel free to send through any questions and our team will answer them. And I'd like to say thank you for today, and I will let you get back to lunch. Thank you very much.